We almost had that mistake fare. So could be better, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it.
Julian, you got any upcoming travel plans? I know I ask you this every week. What are we
Yeah,
looking at?
still nothing as of now.
Have you lost your love
Hopefully
of
soon.
travel, Julian? Is that
Yeah,
what's happening?
that's what it is, right? Yeah.
It's like,
No,
they say don't go work in the thing you love, because then the thing you love turns into work. Have you
I
lost your
know.
love of cheap flights?
No, I was considering getting that Salt Lake City mistake fare, but I ended
Ah,
up not getting it, and it ended up not coming through anyway.
I don't even want to hear the words American Airlines today. Okay. I am
I
done
know.
with
It's a
them
rough one.
canceling everybody's flights that they booked yesterday,
Yeah.
those awesome mistake fares. Not only canceling them, which is bad enough, like doing it on the sly, like
That
trying
was
to
that's
like just
dirty.
canceling them and
Yeah.
not notifying people, sending them an email, anything. I don't know. It was terrible. It was terrible. I am American Airlines. You are on my spit list, as they say. Anyway,
There you go.
thank you everybody for being here. Go ahead and drop your questions about cheap flights, travel, Delta variant, reopenings, vaccine passports, whatever's on your mind. Drop that in the comment section below or to the side. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. By law, I have to take the first question, no matter what it is, and then we're going to try to get to as many as we can after that. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Julian.
Yeah. Starting us off, KK says, "Hi, friends." KK. Good
Hey,
to see
KK.
you again. Mark Matthews asks, with our first question, when should we expect to see more international flight deals for late March out of Raleigh?
So I actually think those are going to be popping up right around now. Julian, do you remember by chance offhand if Raleigh was in this morning's great Greece deal? There was a deal this morning from, gosh, felt like all over the
They
U.S.
they
to
were, yeah, because I think they were in the Greece deal and they were also in the Europe deal.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I. Hmm.
Then it was the
Uh-oh. I don't know if my internet dropped or if we lost Scott. Let me see. I feel like. Oh, I think we lost Scott. Okay. Okay. So it is Scott's side. I was worried it was my side. Um, but yes. So what he was saying, hopefully he'll rejoin us very soon. That Raleigh was on the Europe deal and the Greece deal that we sent out today. So that there's already options there. The other thing I'm assuming that he was going to say is now is a very good time to look for those flights from now to late March. Scott always likes to say, especially for international deals, we like to generally every 2 to 8 months is that kind of Goldilocks window. So we're definitely close to that, and um, now I would start looking for deals out of Raleigh now. Let me see if he is back. Yeah, lost Scott. Scott has left the building. He has. All right, I'll continue answering some of the questions, and we'll try to see if we can get Scott back here as quick as possible. Oh, I think he's back. Let's see. But before he is, let me see. Next question is from Vivian. Scott, there you are. You're back.
I must have said something to really piss off Comcast. They are officially trying to take me off the air. I can't believe it. Apologies. I hate it when there are internet issues, and I feel bad. But I'm back. Hopefully here for good.
Yeah. So for Mark, I was telling him, that 2 to 8 months window is good, but start looking now. Now you can definitely start getting those deals out of Raleigh, and we are seeing them. Moving on to Vivian's question, when is the latest I can cancel a flight in hopes that the airline cancels first and I get a refund? So there's that chicken game that, that we love talking about, Scott.
Yeah, there's basically no cutoff. I mean, I would usually do it at least kind of 48 hours ahead of time just to make sure if anything gets kind of stuck in the pipes, as it were, that you're not left holding the bag that way. But it's very rare to see a flight canceled in the last week before travel, just unless there's some sort of operational meltdown like we saw last week with Spirit. Generally speaking, if a flight does get canceled or significantly changed, it's further out. And the reason why airlines do it further out is so that anybody who's impacted by it has enough time to be able to reschedule, get a different flight, even for their own pilots and flight attendants to be able to coordinate their schedule. So if it gets to the last week or so, I wouldn't hold out much hope that the airline is going to cancel.
Yeah. Our good friend Enrique asked the quality question. When are we doing another Scott's wine moment? That's a good question. Maybe an after dark Scott Cheap Flights Facebook Live. Maybe that's what we're looking at.
Listen, if we hit some sort of big round milestone of members at SCF, I might have to be forced into it. We'll see.
There you go. Next question comes from Sarah. Sarah asks, how cheap have you found Western European flights from Charlotte?
Oh God, I mean, cheapest ever. We found ones from Charlotte over to like Barcelona under $300 round trip. Charlotte doesn't see as many deals as say like New York or DC or Boston. It's a little bit of an unfair metric to hold it to, though, because those are like the cheap flight capitals of the US, along with Chicago and Los Angeles. But we do see a lot of great deals out of Charlotte. Julian, are you pulling up a couple recent ones?
Yeah, honestly, recent ones from Charlotte have all been Western Europe. So there you go. Like we definitely see them a lot. We've seen, even today, we've sent a lot of Charlotte to kind of all over Western Europe in the 400s. We sent an elite premium economy deal from Charlotte to the Scandinavia region for about 900s today. So they're seeing elite deals. They're also seeing premium deals. We also have seen Germany recently, Venice, and Greece within the 500s just within the past week. Actually, not even, yeah. It is within the past week. I was going to say within the past 3 days. So,
let me put it this way. There are more cheap flights from Charlotte to Western Europe than any of us could possibly hope to actually take. Yep. So you're going to have your pick.
Yeah, there you go. And then, I mean, as Alexandria says, that Greece deal was amazing. It was a very good deal.
I loved that deal this morning. That was an awesome one.
I know. Let's see. Next question comes from Kate. We're just going to keep it moving today. Just seeing the COVID cases have doubled in Germany recently, do you expect to see any significant changes in their travel protocols? Good question.
If you have not been vaccinated, very possibly. If you have been vaccinated, unlikely. So for people who have been vaccinated, with the one exception of Israel, you haven't really seen any countries say you are no longer able to come visit here as a tourist. On the contrary, every single country, save for 2 in Europe, and that's Norway and Hungary, you can visit today as a vaccinated American. Now, the requirements might be changing a little bit. We've not seen anywhere, again, reimpose a mandatory quarantine on vaccinated Americans, and I think it's highly unlikely that any significant number will. The one exception, like we mentioned, is Israel, but you might have to, for instance, bring a recent negative test, even if you hadn't had to previously as a vaccinated American, or you might have to, if you you might have to submit a health declaration form that you hadn't been required to previously. But I would very strongly anticipate that you will not be seeing many countries denying entry or reimposing mandatory quarantines for folks who have been vaccinated.
Brian says, just came back from Italy 2 weeks ago, spent 1 week in Amalfi Coast and the next week in Roma and Firenze. I actually don't know how to pronounce that. How do you pronounce that?
I'll just say Florence. I think it's Florence.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, yeah, that's one of the things that I really like. Like when I went to Spain in June, there are a lot of folks. Look, I love Rick Steves. Rick Steves, one of my idols. He is dead wrong on this matter because he says, no, don't go to Europe this summer because it's not going to be like it was. I'm waiting till next summer. And what I say is, no, no, no. This summer is the window of opportunity to be able to visit Italy and Spain and Greece and Germany and be able to do so with a fraction of the normal tourist crowds that you would see there in a normal summer. Next summer, I would bet that the tourist numbers are going to be right where they were pre-pandemic, if not higher. The crowds are all going to be back. But right now we're in that window of opportunity where you can go to these iconic sites and have it much more to yourself than you would in a normal year.
Yeah, there you go. Matt actually asked a really good question that I think a lot of us have a similar mindset, and I'm sure a lot of people have a very similar question. So Matt asks, I want to be a responsible traveler, but also want to head to Europe next month. Is it possible to do both, or should I stick to US travel for now? It's a great question.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what your specific concerns are, Matt, about being, in terms of responsible travel. Because look, I think that your heart is absolutely, it sounds like, in the right place. And I think that, being mindful of our impact in whatever realm is always an important thing to do. One of the things where I do urge a little bit of caution is in looking at travel as a zero-sum game. A lot of folks will think, oh, well, it's either good for the tourist or it's good for the locals, but it can't be good for both. And to them, I don't think that's actually the case in most places. If you look at most places you can visit in this world, they would be so thrilled to have more tourism dollars coming in, more folks coming to the restaurants, more folks coming to the shops, more folks staying at the hotels. And we hear about the sort of Barcelonas and Venices and Parises where there are just a lot of people, but that is not the case for most of the world. And it's not the case that it's a sort of unmitigated bad for most people there. I think of a trip I took to Milan and then went hiking in Cinque Terre. And I remember stopping in a little B&B restaurant there, having lunch and talking with the server. And I was asking her, well, how do you like working here now that it's become such a tourist attraction? And thinking, oh, she's going to say, oh, I hate it. The tourists suck, all this, which is the answer that we're kind of conditioned to expect as tourists, because we think of ourselves as sort of a parasite of sorts. And instead, the answer she gave me was, I love it. It's amazing, because when I was growing up, I expected to have to move to Milan to be able to, find work and make money and raise a family, because Cinque Terre at that time was not a tourist attraction. But now that it has become a tourist attraction, there are so many folks coming in to hike and take in the sights. She was able to stay where she grew up, able to participate in this family business, and able to raise her family where she wanted to be and not have to move to Milan or somewhere else to do so. And so I think, look, there are certainly unmitigated excesses. It's not as though more tourism is always better, but I would caution folks against thinking of tourism as inherently something that's parasitic, because I just don't think that's the case.
Yeah. All right. Next question is Alicia asks, any recommendations for things to do in Greece in late fall? I heard a lot of the islands are closed. We just booked the Houston to Greece deal for Thanksgiving. Any recs, Scott?
I love Greece. I've mostly been there in the summertime. Obviously, you're going to have when you're talking about June, July, August. Definitely spend a few days just touring through, just doing a walking tour through Athens. You really don't, it's such a beautiful city with so many of these sort of ruins ingrained everywhere that you don't need to do that much preparation ahead of time. You're just going to love kind of being there, walking around. Gosh, in terms of specific recs, I mean, I'm the one thing I can think of is get souvlaki at this restaurant called Kostas, Kostas. Some of the best I've ever had. Julian, you've been to Athens, to Greece. Any specific recommendations that
I
might not
have.
be obvious?
Yeah, well, I don't know. They might be obvious, but I really liked Athens. Like, I feel like before I went, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you just need 2 to 3 days, 1 to 2 days in Athens. It's not that great. You can kind of move on from it, go to some of the other islands." I actually really loved Athens in itself, Athens and the surrounding area. So I would say if you're not able to go to the islands, yeah, like Scott said, just the actual city is great to walk around. There's so much good food. The other things I would say, there's so many great day trips out of Athens. So one is Temple of Poseidon, Cape Sunia, I think is what it was called. And so that's a really good day trip. Great place to see the sunset. And then also, if you can get out there, Delphi. Delphi was beautiful, I think. I'm also big on ancient civilizations and history. So, Greece definitely has a lot of that. But those are definitely two places that I would recommend.
And if anybody else has recommendations from their
Yeah,
trips to Athens or elsewhere in Greece, please leave them in the comment section. We want to help out Alicia as much as we can.
exactly. Janaya says, I just want to take a moment to thank SCF. Thanks to y'all, I was able to fly to Barcelona in Delta One for a third of the original price. It has been the trip/birthday of a lifetime.
Janai, that is so amazing. Congrats to you for that trip, and thanks for letting us know. Like Drew and I were talking at the top of this thing, like we don't get to travel quite as much as we maybe used to in our younger years. It is such a pleasure to be able to live vicariously through other folks' trips.
Yeah. All right. Another question from Trisha. She says, "Hello, Trisha here. What is the easiest way to figure out entry/exit in European countries from the US?"
Yeah, so there are, the best, most comprehensive way is through the State Department. They have I think it's called travel.state.gov. You can just put in the name of the country that you're going to, and it'll show you what the entry and exit requirements are. For most places, again, if you've been vaccinated, almost everywhere you can get in, the two exceptions being Norway and Hungary. Everywhere else, some places you might need to show your proof of vaccination. Some places you might need to show a recent negative test. Some places you might not need anything at all. But that's the most authoritative site, travel.state.gov.
Yeah. Seeing a lot of Mark already is giving great Athens recommendations. So thank you for that. All right. Alexandra asks, what are the upcoming destinations coming up for spring? Mama needs a getaway. Scott, I mean, we see deals to almost everywhere. So I guess if this was you, what are some deals or destinations that you're hoping comes up, or deals that pop up for us that we're able to send out into your inbox?
Yeah, look, if I had to guess where are going to be the hot places to go in the spring, where's everybody really going to want to get back to? It's international. Domestic tourism has rebounded much more quickly than international. Domestic tourism down about 15% compared to pre-pandemic. International still down 40 to 50%. And so I think both trips to Europe, especially Mexico, is actually higher than it was pre-pandemic, both in terms of the number of flights and the number of people traveling. So I don't think that's going to be kind of a new hotspot for folks. I would expect Europe, Iceland, absolutely. But then Asia, Southeast Asia, especially by spring, I think it's very likely that many of these places that have been closed, it's the one big region of the world where Americans by and large still cannot visit. I do not think that's going to be the case come spring 2022. I think you are going to be able to visit there, as well as perhaps New Zealand. They're starting to make waves in that direction. So I think if I were to guess where's going to be hot for them, those are my guesses. But remembering that cheap flights are popping up all the time, all around the world, all around the US, wherever you're hoping to go, there's a decent chance we're going to find a good deal there.
Yeah, I like just kind of having a top 7 to 10, if that, maybe 15 list of places I want to go, and if one comes through, boom, that becomes the number one destination. So yeah. All right, let's do one more comment and one more question, Scott, if you've got time for that.
Perfect.
All right, Thank you, KK and Enrique, for all of the help that I see you all dropping in the comments. Another message from one of our good friends, Victoria. Scott, I'm in love with the search feature. I spent a solid hour on the Choose From Me button last night just to see which places would pop up. I love that.
That is so cool, Victoria. I love
Yeah.
hearing that. And we're gonna share that with the team because they worked so hard to get that built up. For folks who aren't aware, if you log into your Scott's Cheap Flights account, go to scottscheapflights.com, you will be able to see some really cool new features in there, including search, including getting to kind of poke around at all the types of deals that are popping up out of your home airport. There are more deals pop in than we're able to just email out to you. And, we want to be respectful of folks' inboxes. So we're still going to keep alerting you to the best of the best, but go take a look at what else is popping up on your account. There's going to be some fun stuff in there.
Yeah. All right. Final question. It's a good go-to. Mario asked, Japan just called off their F1 race in October. Japan is not looking good for travel this year. What are your thoughts?
So I'm glad you brought this up. I know a lot of folks monitoring the situation very closely in Japan. A lot of folks sitting on $200 round trip flights for later this year and early 2022, hoping that those are going to make good. There's I think a sort of good news, bad news situation. I think you alluded to the bad news here, calling off the F1 race. I think that's an indication that tourism is not going to be reopening in the next month or two. The good news is that if you've been following their vaccination numbers, they just passed 50%, and it's going up pretty quickly still. I mean, we talk about this every couple of weeks, but it keeps on going up, and by November, what's it going to be? I think there's a decent chance it'll be above 70%, above 80% if we're lucky. And so I don't personally have tickets to Japan later this year, but I would not be giving up hope if you have tickets for November, December, and certainly not for early 2022. Obviously, the later you have them, the higher the likelihood Japan will be reopened by then. But I think there is some silver lining. There is some potential for reopening if you look for it. But again, right now we're all kind of left reading the tea leaves, trying to see what is the indication, what's coming around the corner. My best guess, I still think there's a decent chance it opens up before 2021 is over. I still feel pretty good about folks who have 2022 tickets. But again, we're going to keep monitoring, and I'm glad you brought this up. Thanks, everybody, for your awesome questions. As always, thanks for being here. My apologies again for the technical troubles. I am going to give a sternly worded call to Comcast. I'm just playing. It's not their fault. And we'll be back, I think, this time next week. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Awesome. Talk to y'all. Bye.